My name's Klima. I'm a person in long-term recovery from both polysubstance use disorder and several mental health diagnoses. I have 20 years of abstinence from substance use and 10 years of stability in my mental health recovery. I work for Let's Get Real. We're a recovery community organization. Our headquarters are in Lorain, Ohio, but we also provide services in Huron County, Ohio, and I am Director of Huron County Services for Let's Get Real. And I also am a master facilitator I teach new peer supporters for the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. My head is a very, very noisy place. I try to describe what, even now, and it's something I really struggle with a lot, is imagine having 6 TVs on and 3 or 4 radio stations. That's how I live. Okay. Now I know how to process it and minimize it and get through the day, but when you're little, you don't. And the church at that time did not believe in psychotherapy or being on any kind of medication for that. So I'm from this working class family that became a upper middle class family, and I marry into a upper class family. And it was funny, but in that world, everybody has a therapist. It's so normal. You're not in therapy, I can't trust you, you're not in therapy. So my moods had gotten really, really bad, and in fact, my former mother-in-law gave me a name that stuck, Mr. Stormy Cloud, because I was so mercurial, And when I was in a bad mood, I was pretty vicious, and she was pretty much the only person who could call me on it, and it became so bad. And then hiding in my room for a week and not talking to people, and it was like, my then wife was like, need to talk to somebody. And so I started to talk to them, and I got some benefit out of it. We had our first daughter, and I enjoyed being a dad, but I had this whole plan in my head. And then we had our second child, and my second daughter had very severe autism that did not fit with the plan. And at that point, I couldn't, everything imploded. I couldn't process the fact that I had this special needs child, and I ran from my own family, and I hid in cocaine. I just hid in it for years, and it was bad. It's hard for me to talk about, because instead of being an adult, I fled. So my older daughter, she's a lot like me, and she has, so she lives with the same diagnoses I do, and she's so smart, and she's such a good person. My daughter's brilliant. And she was very mad at me, and our relationship was substantially harmed. And we went through a process of I had to learn to let go and allow her space. It's such a beautiful thing. I love her so much. And with Morgan, I lost all ability to really have much input in her life, my younger daughter. And I didn't necessarily agree with all of the choices that my ex-wife was making with her, but I had no ability to effectuate anything. And it was this process. I'm trying to earn the right to have influence again. She got sick, and she was having trouble standing up. Within 3 weeks, she had her body shut down, and we had to make the decision to terminate life support. But I had never gotten to the point I felt, excuse me, I never got to the point where I felt like I paid my debt to her. That I never really got to that point where I could bring my style of parenting to have some real influence in her life. So that it wasn't, everything was just her mother's point of view, and that I could influence her path. And she, part of that was I felt that I owed her that debt. Part of that it was, of course, my dealing with my own grief and need. And when she passed, that puts a period there. So I'll never have that opportunity to show her, to earn my forgiveness from her. Not that she would even know what that meant. So to complicate things, about 9 months before she passed, I was doing some peer support at a recovery house, and there was a young kid there who I wasn't peer supporting him. It was a friend of the guy I was peer supporting, and he kind of, I don't know, I just, we talked a little bit, but we never really did any peer support. And he has ASD1, so what would have known as Asperger's. And so he struggled a lot. He was really struggling, and anyhow, there was a suicide attempt, and he ended up in the hospital. This young man, his backstory is horrible. And so when he went, they asked him for data, and the only name he gave them was mine. So they called me up, and I go out to see him, and he's there for about 10 days, and they're like, hey, he's getting released tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, that's great news, where are you sending him? And they were like, what do you mean? And they were like, where are you sending him? What's his accommodations going to be? And he was like, you. And I'm like, what do you mean, me? Aren't you his dad? No, I'm not his father. I'm just... And they were like, oh, we thought you were his dad. Oh, well, but we don't do that here. So we're just going to... And I was like, so, I do not recommend this in any way, shape, or form. I took him home to my house. And that was 5 years ago. And 4.5 years ago, I should say. No, 5 years ago now. Because he was with me a while before Morgan passed. And so he's my son. The problem there, I had always thought if I engaged in enough therapy that my organic thoughts would stop. As much as I love my parents, my dad's a really tough guy. And he's somebody who's never satisfied. He is a tremendous success story, the American dream, kind of from abject poverty. He's just a successful man. But he's just really hard. And if I got all A's and an A minus, it would be like, why did you get the A minus? No matter what I did, it was never enough. So and this is to this day, a whole life, my head says to me, you're worthless. You have no skills. You are an unlikable, unlovable person. Nobody likes you. Nobody loves you. You're nothing. You should kill yourself. My head tells me that every day, that I should die. The world would be happier without you. So I thought, hey, if I do enough therapy, that'll go away. And it never did. You know, there's a point in your life it's stuck, and that you don't control those thoughts that bubble up. And part of that was the thing that I think I couldn't handle. I was like, I can't continue to live my life with my head like this. And then we got in trouble, and then I had my most serious suicide attempt where I had to be revived. And that was, and then there was the trial, and it wasn't a trial because I pled bargained, and I went to prison. And at prison, there was a psychiatrist who introduced me to a therapy I'd never heard before called acceptance and commitment therapy. And the idea is you start with this idea that we can't control the ideas that pop in our heads. These organic thoughts, organic emotions. If I come over and slap you right now, you're going to be angry.
Yes.
You can't stop that. Is letting go of this need to think that you can control this organic thought and understand that you have to be conscious of it's happening, and then you get to choose what to do with it. And part of that is realizing that, especially when it comes to thoughts, you know, everybody's getting conditioned to think, if I'm thinking it, it must be correct and it must be important, or it wouldn't be in my head, right? Well, the fact is, most of what we think is not correct, and none of it is very important. And so they teach you this process of defusing, they call it, and is walking away from this belief and learning a paradigm for yourself to identify those thoughts that support your goals and values and ignore the rest. I'm a big music fan, so I grew up in record stores. I use that motif for me is that my thoughts were like going through a record collection. It's like, don't like that band, don't like that. Oh, I like this band. Okay, got it. Oh, I don't have. Oh, look at this rarity. Oh, this is an import. And you pull it out and you pay attention to it. And that was the construct I used for my thoughts. Everybody finds their own format of looking at their thoughts. And it was that realization of a journey of becoming incredibly self-aware, and that turned everything for me. Is that I was like, okay, so this whole life goal of I'm going to stop these thoughts from happening, it went away, and I was okay, and learning that I don't have to pay attention to that. You do other things, like you hear those voices and like a cartoon character, and there's all these exercises you do to try to stop taking all of this organic noise seriously, and this band led me through it and changed my world. It was the peace I needed. I had done a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy up till then. Yeah, so it's just after years of trying to be financially successful and have all this renown and just ladder climbing and stuff, is to just say, no, what I always wanted all along was just a little peace. Because I never, because of this. And then, the chaos that drug use brings. And so I don't know if that's intangible or not, because it's tangible in so many ways of my life,
right,
Yeah. And it's just that, and just the ability to see other people and just to be like,
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they get it. You get it.
Man,
yes.
Keep doing it.
Yes.
Whatever you're doing, keep doing it,
So, bucket list. You talked about traveling. Where is the one place that you would really like to get to that you haven't?
So I've been very fortunate. So I have two. Well, because my kids are probably not going to have kids. So what we have decided is, because Christmas isn't the same for us. We're adults and none of us are Christian. Okay. So Christmas is a difficult time. So we've decided to travel during Christmas. And we've set out our list. This Christmas, we're going to Iceland.
Very cool.
Because why not?
Right. Yes.
Then the year after that, we're going to the Galapagos Islands.
Wow.
And then we have a African safari, and then New Zealand. If people just keep trying, and this willingness to keep trying new things, get up and, what did I learn? Let's do something new. I honestly believe that people can find their pathway to whatever recovery they want. It just takes patience and that willingness to keep trying it. But I do believe recovery is available to everybody. Everybody.